Thank you all for coming today. My name is Antoine Calab. I work as the Associate Director of the Nature Conservation Center. So we're very happy to be today, a very promising audience for the first roundtable of the series. Just gonna do a recap of the series that we had last year and give a bit of an outlook of what's coming next for this year. So last year we decided to do the annual roundtable series for three main reasons. First, to explore intersectionality between topics related to environment and climate issues. Second, identify together with the experts, with the audience, with different stakeholders, the different priorities and dynamics. And of course, allow for an open exchange of ideas. So last year we partnered up with IFI, the Civil Society Institute for Civil Society and Citizenship, the Heinrich Böll Stiftung, and Arab Reform Initiative. And we actually started with UN-Habitat. They were part of the first event when we were also celebrating the 20 years of NCC. So we started with a very diverse outlook on environmental and climate issues. We had issues related to the field, what's going on the ground, but also as you move forward, we also had discussions related to policy, to governance, so a very wide array of topics that were actually quite inspirational, because I'm going to go through these very quickly. Okay, so just an overview of the panelists. So you can see that we made sure that we didn't want to hear a one-sided version of how to interpret climate and environmental issues in Lebanon. Obviously, we're based in a university, so academia and research were a bit dominant, but you can see that there was also participation from other sectors and stakeholders. And of course, this is a new objective for this year's edition, is how we can also be more diverse and more inclusive in the representation and the voices that we hear on this platform. Next slide. So we had more than 1,000 registered attendees across the series, which had six installations. As you can see, the audience was also quite diverse. And for the next slide, you also see that through the online participation, we're actually able to take this conversation not only outside the country, but outside the region as well. So after each roundtable, we published a small brief with just a recap of what was discussed. Usually we do it with the partner, and of course, a summary of the main points and the recommendations and what we can learn from these discussions. These are just some quick pictures from the event we're going to go through. So you can see that it's a very engaging format. It has different settings, sometimes a bit more cozy, sometimes it's a bit more formal. But you can see that, through these discussions, we actually learned 5 main things. And these learnings are actually very important in directing the work and the research that NCC does. So first, of course, we need to keep promoting evidence-based approaches. We need to rely a lot more on scientific data, on research to orient policy and decision-making. We need impactful and innovative research. And when I say impactful, we also need a new way to measure our impact and to align the priorities and how we look at what the different stakeholders are doing. We need to better connect theory and practice. The reason behind centers like NCC that are not under a faculty is very much to take the research outside the walls of campus. And this is also our way of connecting theory to practice by leveraging the powerhouse that is, in terms of research, that is AUB, but also working with people who are on the ground or in a decision-making position to make practical use of the research that is done. We, of course, want to act as a platform for dialogue and collaboration. And I'm proud to say that because of the first roundtable in which UN-Habitat also took part, we have now been able to strengthen our collaboration with them. And that also works for different partners and stakeholders that were part of these discussions. And finally, we need to work more on providing training and education, raising awareness, empowering people with the skills, with the knowledge, with the critical analysis tool to be better defenders and citizens vis-a-vis climate and environmental issues. So this is all relating to 5 areas of excellence, of research excellence that we are building at NCC. I'm not going to go through in detail. So first one is focused on water, second one on health and well-being through nature, the third one on eco-transition, circularity, supporting the startups, supporting the private sector and the entrepreneurs in the green transition, citizenship and nature, making each one of us a defender and a key stakeholder and an actor in environmental issue, and finally regenerative planning, which is also where we work with decision makers on territorial level issues and try to work with municipalities to empower them. So some of our projects, the Environment Academy, which very much looks into rural areas and co-designs in a very participatory approach, co-designs interventions and projects. The next example is Islam and the Environment Engine. So this was done through AI and machine learning. We've actually had a team that mined the Quran and established that about 30% of the verses in the Quran have some type of reference to nature and the environment, and therefore, in a way, one conclusion that can be drawn is that it's an inherent part of religion to champion environmental and nature issues. The next one, which is also an active conversation, we're very close to an agreement with the Ministry of the Environment to activate the sustainable planning portal of the environment and operate it through AUB-NCC. Just a few slides. So some of the indicators that we'll be looking into, of course, this would be done with a range of stakeholders, ministries, public institutions, and so on. So this is hopefully something that will materialize in the coming month. Next. So we finished last year's Roundtable series with lots of lessons learned, and we're excited to announce this year's series. So this will be the first one. For this series, we'll be looking more into actors. Who is actually making this impact? Who is generating projects? Who is playing a role in environmental issues? And this is very much going to be of diverse scales and of diverse type of stakeholders. So the first one, which we have today, is very much about the Baladiye, the municipality. How can we empower? How can we formalize the role of the municipality and make them leaders, not only actors, but leaders in the issue of climate mitigation and adaptation? The second one with CEWAS on June 3rd, it's going to look into how we can innovate using circular economy. How can we work with businesses for a more sustainable approach to e-waste, which is especially relevant after the solar panel solarization boom that we've witnessed the past few years. The fourth one with Synaps is going to look into knowledge production. So using environmental research as advocacy, the role of research, of think tanks, of academia, as well as private researchers. And finally, we're going to close the forum with critical perspectives on inter-Mediterranean climate cooperation and see how can these actors actually work together and complement each other's actions. So I would like to thank you again for participating, especially those who were also part of the first series. And with these closing, with these words, I would like first to invite Ms. Tania Christansen, the head of UN-Habitat Program, Lebanon program, hope I got that right, to deliver the opening remarks, as well as the panelists to please take your seats as we'll be starting soon. Thank you very much and hope you enjoyed the conversation.
I guess so. Can you hear me? It's okay? Yeah? All right. Let's see if I can multitask. Huh? No, it's okay. It's all right. Good to go? Yeah, good to go. So hello, everyone, and thank you, Antoine, for the introduction and recapping. And UN-Habitat is really happy to be back and to be collaborating with you on this and multiple other fronts, and glad to see people in the audience. And I guess there's also people online. So last time I was here, the keynote remarks were done by the Minister of Environment. So I will not be able to follow his steps for sure, but hopefully I'll be able to enlighten a bit this panel discussion. So first of all, I won't introduce the panel. That'll be my colleague Elie's role, but happy to see the Mayor Assaad, happy to see Diana, happy to see Anthony, and happy to see Moustapha from Saida, as well as, of course, Hala from the Ministry of Environment. So, everyone, good afternoon. It's really my distinct pleasure to be with you here today to introduce this panel discussion on positioning the Baladiye at the center of climate adaptation, localizing the intervention, which is jointly organized with the AUB-NCC. So I'm also even more thrilled to have the opportunity to gather this wonderful panel of practitioners and experts to discuss the topic that is very dear to my heart, and that of UN Habitats, of course, the localization of climate action in Lebanon. and placing local governance, especially municipalities, at the center of today's climate discourse. So localizing climate change action broadly encourages thinking and action at the local level, enabling communities themselves to fight climate change and build resilience to climate impacts. This spans from relocalizing economy, as well as food production, to individual actions at the household and community level. Now, this panel, however, will be zooming in a little bit and will be focusing on local governments and their strategic and convening position in creating an enabling environment to adaptation and implementing concrete interventions to safeguard and mitigate future climate impacts. Needless to say that the concerted efforts at the local level to enable concrete and impactful adaptation measures to climate change is an urgent priority to Lebanon. This even amidst the concurrent other multiple and competing crises facing the country. Regional conflict, political instability, financial collapse, ever-growing inequality and poverty. You know it all, and we've said it all. So to date, though, I carefully observe that Lebanon has been spared some of the most apparent and drastic impacts of climate change, otherwise seen across the globe. However, over the past years, recurrent floods, fires, changing weather patterns, and so on indicate that even though the change may be gradual in Lebanon, actors at all levels need to be cognizant that climate change is a real threat to the country and that we need to act now. So Lebanon, despite being classified as a lower middle income country and economy, the vulnerability factor of communities in Lebanon has only increased over the past 4 to 5 years, pushing those already below the poverty line even further below, and seeing a marked increase of those already previously not vulnerable being classified as such today. I also dare say that this trajectory will unfortunately continue to grow, thus challenging and eroding previous coping mechanisms that these people have to withstand incidental impacts of climate change, incidents occurring already today in Lebanon. So while, and unfortunately, the Lebanese state is to a certain extent unable to fully and comprehensively initiate and implement concerted nationwide climate action measures and policies at this stage, we can seek and refocus our efforts at the local level with local governments by creating bankable climate action plans and still maintain that bridge to the national level. Cities and their local governments are critical actors in the climate crisis. By 2050, towns and cities are expected to grow by 2.5 billion people, raising the urban share to 68% of the global population. Rapid urbanization, population growth, economic development, and rising prosperity is expected to contribute to increased emissions and climate change impacts as the years go by. And this is also relevant for Lebanon. Some say that the climate battle will be won or lost in cities. So to that end, thousands of the local governments around the world have committed to specific climate action plans, and some have joined the city's race to zero. This was launched in COP26 in Glasgow. Now, while I'm fully cognizant of the immense challenges facing cities and their local governments in Lebanon today, I would like to challenge Lebanese cities to join this race and explore the development of their climate action plans. With that said, I also believe that local governments can be strategically placed and can be the perfect in-between national versus individual. They are large enough to make systemic change and small enough to engage individuals. Cities can respond to climate change in a way that is localized to their region, their economy, and their capacity, while ensuring the engagement of youth and women as critical actors in this endeavor. It's really encouraging to see several cities in Lebanon already have the climate agenda on their radar and are already implementing multiple climate adaptation and mitigation projects across the country, some of which UN-Habitat is very proud to be a part of. I would like to see a more coordinated and less fragmented approach to addressing climate action at the local level. Thus, I would be curious to hear from our speakers, especially from Saida and Zahle, on how they see we could provide support, more support in this front. The development of city-specific climate action plans could be a starting point and could pave the way to secure climate financing. To that end, I would also be curious to hear from Hala on how the Ministry of Environment is working on climate financing opportunities at the local level, and from Anthony on how the Green Investment Facility could support on the same. And finally, of course, from Diana on how reforms are critical aspect of all of this, change. So, in brief, I look very much forward to listening to the panel's discussion today and to explore the pathways that can be taken to localize climate action in Lebanon, with municipalities taking a stronger lead together with their communities to facilitate a stronger and local climate action response while creating entry points for accessing climate finance. Thank you.
Thank you, Tania. Thanks. No, we can, but I should get it close to my mouth. So thank you, Antoine, for hosting us, and thank you, all attendees. I'm pleased to have also the esteemed panelists today with us. But before we start, you will say that I'm the moderator, so I need to be the timekeeper to a certain extent. But before we start, a few housekeeping matters. Now each panelist will have 10 minutes notes. Then after the notes, we will open the floor for discussion. And appreciate if anyone from the audience has a question, please raise your hand, state your name, and address the question to the person that you intend to have answer from. And as much as possible to be concise with the question. This is your recommendation. I'm just copying it. Then afterwards, when we finish the discussions, we try to somehow summarize the key takeaways of the discussions, recommendations from the audience, and any particular takeaway before we go to the reception, which will be held outside. Okay, thank you, Antoine. So this being said, this roundtable has multiple problematics to answer, yet has several objectives to achieve. One is to advocate for local climate actions by recognizing the opportunities for local climate actions. Two, to bring together multiple actors to discuss the advantage of having municipalities at the forefront of the climate response. Three, to showcase ongoing mitigation and adaptation responses at municipal level and explore bankable opportunities. And four, how can we ensure that municipalities are equipped to have a cross-sectoral climate adaptation and mitigation responses? So the question here, at the beginning will be, will municipalities in Lebanon take the leadership, just to capitalize on your statement, Antoine, at the beginning, will take the leadership in sustainable development and addressing climate risks and vulnerabilities? Let's see today. Without further ado, allow me to introduce our first panelist for today, Ms. Hala Mounajed. I don't know who did this arrangement, but Hala will start first in the discussion. Who has been working at the Ministry of Environment since 2011 and managing the Air Quality Department since 2016. She was assigned as the focal point for the United Nations Framework for the Climate Change Convention, UN-FCCC, and climate change projects in 2023. Her work at the ministry is linked to making legislations and strategies related to protection of the environment from air pollution, and as a focal point for climate change, and focusing on providing support to the climate change projects based at the ministry, and also facilitating the coordination between different ministries, international entities, and stakeholders working on climate change. Dear Ms. Hala, as discussed, can you brief us a bit about what is climate mitigation and adaptation first, and probably the role of the Ministry of Environment in this? And the second part of my question would be how municipalities can benefit from these climate opportunities that we have, either now or upcoming. Thank you. The floor is yours.
Good afternoon, everyone. So I will be doing a summary about climate change mitigation and adaptation. Lebanon signed the climate change law in August 1994, and signed the Paris Agreement in April 2016 and ratified Paris Agreement in 2019. So Lebanon is committed through Paris Agreement and through the climate change law to report on its emissions and on its activities related to adaptation and mitigation. As we all know, climate change is happening. I mean, we can all observe what is happening, such as the decrease of rainfall, the increase of extreme weather events, floods, and the heat waves, the decrease of cool nights, the increase of consecutive dry days, etc. And in this regard, Lebanon is committed to tackle the climate change in two ways. The first is what we defined as mitigation. When we speak about mitigation, we mean that approaching climate change through the causes of climate change, and we aim to reduce emissions. When we speak about adaptation, we tackle the climate change at the impact of climate change, and we aim to increase the resilience. We have what we called NDC, nationally determined contribution. Lebanon has set targets, mitigation targets and adaptation targets. Lebanon is committed to reduce by 2030 20% of its emissions as unconditional target, and by 30% as conditional target. Lebanon is also committed to increase its share of renewable energy to 80% of energy demand and 11% of heat demand. When we speak about adaptation, we speak about Lebanon has set a guideline to clarify the adaptation priorities in synchronization with the Sustainable Development Goals of 2030. When we speak about mitigation, we mean we work, the working fields are mainly related to energy efficiency, energy conservation, renewable energy, sustainable transportation, fuel efficiency. When we speak about adaptation projects, we mainly tackle fields related to food security, land use, public health, increasing resilience in those sectors. How those targets are met? They are met through different plans and programs, which need to be in line with the multi-sectorial strategies and programs prepared by ministries. For example, solid waste, agriculture, forest fires, disaster risk, etc. What else? So regarding mainly the municipalities, how can the municipalities benefit from how can they be engaged in activities, plans, projects related to climate change mitigation and adaptation? There are many ways. First, we have the Climamet program. The Climamet is a program that give the municipalities chance to develop their sustainable energy access and climate adaptation plans. We have other sectorial plans such as the Green Climate Fund, we have the Adaptation Fund, and we have the Global Environment Facilities. Through those programs, the municipalities can apply to several multi-sectorial projects aiming to mitigate and to يعني aiming to prepare projects related to climate change mitigation and adaptation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Quick. Just from where you ended and maybe mentioning the ClimaMed, and I guess, Mr. Mustafa, you're the focal point for ClimaMed in Saida, or yes, I read that in the bio. So basically, ClimaMed, the GF adaptation funds, you mentioned that these are now needs to be very close. So just to take from your last comment or your last statement, Ms. Hala, the ClimaMed, the GF, the Adaptation Fund, etc. These are multi-sectorial projects where municipalities can benefit, which means they can apply themselves, they can propose, put up a proposal, and apply for those fundings. And a second part of this question: what would be the role of the Ministry of supporting those municipalities whenever they do have a bankable project to apply to?
Yes, they can apply through ClimaMed. It's a program that helps them develop their what we call sustainable energy plans and climate adaptation plans. We have another fund which we called GCF. We have been recently working on GCF with international entities such as UNIDO, UN-Habitat, UNICEF, UNDP. Those international entities mainly applied through Ministry of Environment to projects to be applied in different municipalities and regions, tackling the different sectors impacted by the climate change.
Oh, thank you. Okay, one last question on this related to the first part of, again, I'm sorry for the mic needs to be close to my mouse. So related to the first part of your intervention, you mentioned that Lebanon has several targets. We have a lot of strategies, probably ministerial strategies. And may we know a little bit more if those strategies includes the role of municipalities in the climate mitigation actions or adaptation actions?
Yes, they do, because as far as I know, each strategy must include plans and visions and programs divided into sectors. And here comes the role of municipalities, because the ministries mainly have the role of elaborating, preparing, developing legislations. But when it comes to implementations, here comes mainly the role of municipalities. They are the local authorities where the project has to be implemented.
Thank you. I guess I do have more questions, but I'll stop here just to allow probably during the discussions more questions on this. And now I need to move to our second panelist, Ms. Diana Menhem. Okay, so apologies for this. Diana Menhem is an economist, public policy expert and strategist. She leads Kulluna Irada's executive team after extensive expertise with the United Nations, where she last occupied the position of senior economic advisor at the UN Resident Coordinator's Office in Beirut. She is also politically engaged and has held a leadership position with the emerging opposition group Beirut Madinati. Diana Menhem holds a Master in Economic Development from the University of London, School of Oriental and African Studies, and a BBA in Finance from the American University of Beirut. So please, Ms. Menhem, can you please let us know, and based on your experience, what are the political hindrances and reforms that should apply to allow localizing climate financing? And how can this financing be optimized in Lebanon, noting that Lebanese municipalities have exceeded the 1,100 municipalities? The floor is yours.
Thank you, NCC and UN-Habitat for the chance to talk. I had wished if I had commented after the speakers who wanted to present success stories in the respective municipalities. No, it's fine. Who wanted to present success stories in the respective municipalities, because I'm sure that even given the current situation, there's still immense room for success stories at the local level. However, I feel compelled to remind everyone present here that there is no effective local action, or eventually you're going to reach a ceiling at the level of local action if there are no functioning national institutions and if there is no adequate legislation. I mean, municipalities in Lebanon are basically bankrupt today. They are basically bankrupt because there is a state that mismanaged public finances and that led them to this point. The enabling infrastructure in the country is dilapidated, completely dilapidated, because we have been suffering from decades of fiscal mismanagement, because we had never had the fiscal space to invest in actual infrastructure upgrades for the last tens of years. So there are reasons behind the state we are in now, and I feel compelled to remind everyone of them, because no matter how many success stories we record at the local level, we all know that the massive impact, that real big tangible results will only come from real reform. I also feel compelled to remind everyone that we're talking about a political class whose entire existence in 2018 hinged on actually enacting a single reform, which is the reform to the energy sector, and yet they failed to enact it. So, I mean, I feel we must be constantly reminded of those things in order for us not to lose the compass. This is on one hand. On the other hand, if we want to talk at the municipal, so of course all these hindrances that I have mentioned mean that there are reforms that are required at the national level. I'll mention 3 or 4 very quickly. I mean, definitely we're talking about fiscal reform that allows for adequate fiscal space to invest in proper infrastructure. We're talking about a complete overhaul of the financial system, beginning by a banking sector restructuring that allows the banks to function and allows the economy to stand on its knees again. We're talking also about decentralization law that has been in discussion for more than 10 years now, and that has not been enacted until the moment. And we're لا decentralization law ما عم بحكي على distributed, مش عم بحكي عن DRE، وهلا عم نحكي عن المراسيم التطبيقيه تبع DRE. And we're also talking about I lost my train of thought. مش مشكلة. بس إنه there are sets of really important laws that need to be enacted at the national level in order to really unlock potential at the local level. Now, if you want to move at the municipal level, as I mentioned, I believe there is massive potential at the municipal level, especially at the level of big municipalities who are able to punch above their weight and who are able, together with donor support and together with other forms of support, to really perform today. However, I believe there are 2 key hindrances. The first is access to financing. Municipalities really find it hard to access financing. Municipalities are not allowed today to take loans, and also there are many forms of fiscal decentralization that can be implemented, that can allow municipalities to collect a wider range of taxes and fees that have never been implemented. So this is one, access to financing. The second key hindrance is economies of scale. And we all know, as I mentioned before, so you have large municipalities that are able to implement projects and that are able to implement efficiently. However, we all know that we have loads of municipalities that are too small to actually implement on their own. Here, there is a need to really think of what could achieve economies of scale. Again, in the decentralization law that is being discussed, has been in discussion for ages, there is a proposition to have some sort of structure that is probably bigger than the qada but smaller than the muhafaza, and that would a council that is bigger than that is at a level that's larger than the qada and smaller than the muhafaza, that would allow for economies of scale and that would allow for a pooling of resources and efficient implementation of projects at that level. And this is again a reminder that the implementation of or that basically the enactment of a decentralization law, both that would reconsider both the administrative structure to allow for economies of scale, but also fiscal decentralization to unlock the potential of municipalities is key here. Finally, and with a focus on energy, we all know at the same time that there are certain laws that have been enacted recently, notably the distributed renewable energy law, but of course, we still await the implementation decrees, without which the municipalities will not know how and at what cost they will be able to sell the energy. Thank you. I will stop here. Happy to take questions.
Thank you. Thank you, Diana. I guess you took, which is great. Well,
yeah.
We can ask questions probably within the 10 minutes. I'm sorry for this. Can I get that? That's fine. We will have okay. Better. Where does Law 118 stands of 1978? We know that. Yeah, please. Yeah, go ahead.
No.
No, the thing is that we know that there's a municipal law that was issued in 1978, I guess, and which
It's
gives
an excellent
77.
It's an excellent.
It's excellent.
If it is applied.
Okay, but
it's like government completely, 100%.
The thing is, Diana, no, we read it and we use it as a practice, and we, as UN-Habitat, we piggybacked a lot on this law to establish technical units at the level of unions of municipalities, so that, you know, it was an article under this law, and we found that this law probably it could be enhanced, modified, coupled with a few ideas from here and there under the centralization law. But how can we capitalize on this law to make it more appealing, or to allow municipalities to go and seek more financing, not just related to climate, I mean. So your views on this.
As with everything, implementation is key. So you have legislative texts that are not implemented, and implementation is key. But I just want to mention that there's a difference between Ittihad al-Baladiyat, yani the municipal unions, which is, and between actually establishing an elected council that is empowered to actually implement, work, represent citizens. This is what we are calling for. We're not calling for, we're calling for a مجلس قضاء, مجلس على مستوى أعلى من القضاء أو أوطى من القضاء, بس إنه a really empowered entity that is enabled to implement, to collect part of the taxes, and in order for it to really unlock the potential at the local level. Now, at the same time, we all know that there are many hurdles to access to financing at the level of municipalities. But كمان we all know that today the situation of relying on الصندوق البلد المستقل is not sustainable. بركك ريس انت كمان بتحكي وحضرتك بتحكي كمان بس انه it's really not sustainable. And we were debating earlier that there are many countries in the world where you have models where actual councils can set up funds, take loans, invest. And I believe that particularly in Lebanon, where at the and I'm not saying that there is no corruption at the local level, and I'm not saying that there shouldn't be scrutiny at the local level. And this is also something that we should be always mindful of. But particularly in Lebanon, where at the local level, citizens are really engaged in what matters most to them, we have the potential to achieve results.
Thank you. Before giving you the floor, this just based on your last sentence as well, engaging citizens, and I just want to understand more what could be the role of CSOs in advancing in this agenda.
Okay, I told him not to ask me this question and not to ask me about youth and women, but he insists on asking me about. No, but
your role in Irada.
no. Kidding. No, but and I think that citizens can play a huge role in monitoring, particularly at the local level, because they are interested in the services that are being provided to them, and they are very interested in monitoring. However, we need to develop the good practice of also municipalities engaging citizens more by first publishing their budgets, publishing their projects on a yearly basis, engaging citizens in yearly consultations. And this is how you really engage citizens and allow them to monitor. So what I'm trying to say is there should be a space that is created for citizens to try this. I tried this in my own town, actually, for 2 years. It was very tiring, but I tried this in my own town for 2 years, where we actually pushed the municipality to talk about, to meet with citizens on a regular basis, to talk about the projects that they were implementing, to talk about their budgets, to disclose what they were spending on. And it's very easy to garner citizen engagement on that basis. You just have to create the platform, which will increase citizens monitoring and which will create a virtuous circle eventually.
Thank you. I might have additional questions and hope the audience might have additional questions on your role in Kulluna, Irada, to promote for those things. Not just what you did in your municipality, but as a CSO role, all over the country. Because we know this is an asset that we need to capitalize on. And I guess with everyone on board, we can really promote for such agendas, hopefully. I'm sorry for interrupting. But now, first, thank you, Diana, for your intervention. It was really insightful. Now, looking forward to listen to some local experiences, starting with the mayor, Assaad Zgheib, the mayor of the city of Zahle, who was elected as a mayor for Zahle in 1998 and then 2004, and then from 2016 till date, correct? This is the history. So Mr. Zgheib is a mechanical engineer who graduated from the University of Louisiana at Lafayette, USA, and worked in several contracting firms since 1976. And now he owns AJ Zgheib and Partners for Real Estate Development as well as a mayor. Mr. Zgheib, can you please tell us more about how your municipality was able to overcome some political and administrative hindrances of what we heard so far, to respond to the community needs. Tell us as well about your experience in implementing innovative projects and coordinating with international communities to advance on the sustainability level. The floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. We are talking so many different subjects today. I don't know, maybe we are confusing the people. But to start with, I was elected in 98. There was a president of the country in Lebanon. He was from Zahle. And when you have somebody in power in the government, it means that the government will have an eye towards you, and they will work towards you. And I think this is a message everybody feels it. You know, if you have a minister from your area, your things are done in the ministry. So at that time, things were done, and we met with the European community, and they said that the Mediterranean Sea is like a lake serving all the countries around it. So we need whoever is polluting the Mediterranean is polluting all other countries around it. So, and since we had the president in power, we had the power to have a sewage treatment plant installed in our area in order for our sewage to go clean towards the Mediterranean. Now, they did what you call an excellent sewage treatment plant, tertiary treatment, that the water is so good that we can irrigate with the same water. And that's what we're doing now, trying to lift up the water into the agricultural land to irrigate the water from the treated sewage water, which is excellent water. We test it every once in a while, and it's coming out a good result because it is the only treatment plant from Egypt, Jordan, Syria, Iraq, and Lebanon. It's the only one that is tertiary treatment. Now we also have, at the same time, we were lucky to get what we call a solid waste treatment plant, landfill solid waste treatment plant. And now, since 1999, this solid waste treatment plant is operational. And up till now, it is still operational. And we were treating up to 160 tons daily of garbage before the Syrians came into Lebanon, and now we are treating between 260 to 280 tons daily because of the Syrians' existence in the Bekaa area. There are so many municipalities in Lebanon. Some municipalities, they don't have the resources to have a secretary or to have an accountant. We are demanding a lot from them, you know. And election-wise, these municipalities are so small that you cannot get what you call a mayor that has a vision or a mayor that really wants to work for his village, but a mayor that is from a certain family in that village or who is a bayek in that village that people vote for him, and so don't expect a lot from municipalities as far as the law and as far as people like that are being elected. I established a federation, a union of municipalities. Union of municipalities is like partnership between two people, you know, working to work together. What's the union for? Except for working together. So if my share as municipality of Zahle was at that time when I established the federation, 1.5 billion Lebanese, and the federation that I have established, all others, their share was 20 million, 20 million, 20 million, and I have a vote exactly like their votes. What's the use of sitting with people who don't even have a vision, who don't care? You know, all what they want is their garbage to be taken out. I'm taking their garbage out without the federation. Because they are small municipalities. Have a sanitary landfill that is the cost of treatment of 1 ton of garbage per day is something in the range of $42. $42 per ton. Municipalities cannot pay $42. So we agreed that they should pay $13 because I felt that our air is common, our deep water is common. So if I don't pollute my air or my deep water and they pollute, it is like doing nothing. So I told them, okay, I accept to come. How much you can pay? They said $13. Now they are not paying $13 because of the valuation of the Lebanese pound. They are paying $6. And the rest, it's me who's paying. It's the municipality of Zahle, not me. Municipality of Zahle who's paying that. These municipalities are poor. It's 26 other municipalities in the Qada of Zahle. I have nothing to do with them. There is no union between us. I'm out of that federation, but I'm still helping them because we have to know how to live together. It's the environment. First of all, if you go back after this, the Second World War, it is the bad management that has been done to the environment that created climate change. Climate change did not came out of nowhere. It is our way of treating the environment, the air pollution and everything. So this is a responsibility on every one of us, no matter how small you are. We are small compared to the rest of the world, but no matter how small we are, nobody, we do our share. We care about carbon credit. Carbon credit is very important. We have a sanitary landfill that is treating the methane gas properly, but they don't care about us because we are small. They don't give us carbon credit because we are small. But so many small ones like that all over the world, they make more than two or three or four big ones. So we are hurting the environment like the rest, because if they don't get money, carbon credit, because you are small, and others are not getting money because they are small, only the big ones get money for carbon credit because they are big, it means that after a while, you don't care anymore. You don't care about your methane gas, and you let it free, go free. So anyhow, up till now, we are still taking care of our methane gas, taking care of our lychee. The lychee does not go into the Litani River. The Litani River is dirty, not because of Zahle now. The Berdowni River is clean. Our sewage is going into 80% of our sewer is going into treatment plant. Now, in the coming few months, the other 20% will go into the sewer plant, sewage treatment plant. I have to really here thank the World Bank that is working with us and financing such projects. I have to thank the UN-Habitat and UNDP and the United Nations because they are working with us. They are happy to work with us because we are fulfilling and we are doing our work properly. And we want to keep doing our work properly. As far as, I have to, maybe I'm out of time, but I have to add two more things. There are a few laws, in the government. Municipal tax, it's not a tax. It's like have like water. How much when you pay for water? It's not tax. It's like a service charge, and the municipality is like a service charge. You take 6.5% for residential and 8.5% for commercial. But the problem is not here. The problem is that when you put a certain tax on a certain house in 1977, that tax stays the same since 1977 up to today. So if you are paying in 1977 30,000 Lebanese pound for a house, you are still paying up to now 37,000 Lebanese pound. Why? Because there is no re-evaluation. Because the real term of that tax is رسم على القيمة التأجيرية, which is on the value of the rent. The value of the rent is increasing daily and monthly and yearly. So why don't we increase the tax? That we are not allowed. If in order for you to increase the tax, it means that you have the owner of the house has to do some changes, some modification, some improvement. And if you don't do it, you are not allowed to increase the tax. But if you don't do it, the rental value is increasing. You do it or you don't do it, the rental value is increasing. You could rent a house in 1977 for, let's say, 5,000 Lebanese pounds per month. Now you are renting that same house for $200 a month, let's say, or $300 a month. The tax should increase. And then when you don't pay tax on rental value, when you don't pay it, and somebody else is paying it, then the government comes out with the law that the خصم على الغرامات, the deduction on the, So if I'm paying and he's not paying, the government is encouraging me not to pay. In another way, people don't pay. The government, it is the government that is creating the problem for us. The laws, you have, by law, you are supposed to build 3 apartments here, three floors here, and then your neighbor makes 4, and then there is a law that comes up in a few months that تسوية أوضاع. You know. What do you mean? It means that I'm the one who went by the law. I'm sorry to say I'm stupid. That one is a smart man because he knows that the law in Lebanon all the time permits that you should go by, you should break the law, and somebody comes and tell you, okay, we are encouraging bad people to stay in Lebanon. Well, so in another way, we have to, the government should never cancel Gharamat, should never permit anybody built without a permission, and anybody that builds it has to be put down. Things like that should encourage people to go by the law. The problem is that now we have so many problems that you sit with the people and they tell you, we wish that we have a dictator. What do you mean by dictator? It means that now we are in a mess. They want to get us to another mess. I don't know what it's going to be. Dictator, there is law and order. This is already existing since long period of time, law and order. That is the dictator. It is a dictator on me as a mayor, and it is a dictator on whoever is requesting anything from me. If I go by the law and apply this law, this is dictatorship. Apply it. And there's no other dictatorship. There is the law. Law not good, change it. But apply the law and order. Sorry, and thank you
so much. No, okay, we crossed the time with 2 minutes 40 seconds, but it's okay. What you were saying is really important, and I guess it will allow us now within the discussion to ask more questions about these topics and the role of municipalities and the national governments and this relationship between the national government and municipalities. You didn't allow me to ask any questions, so I leave it now to the discussion. We move now to Saida City Council member and director of the disaster the Zahrani municipalities, Mr. Moustapha Hijazi, who has engineering degree from the Czech Technical University of Prague and BS and MS engineering from Oakland University, Michigan. Mr. Hijazi has been elected since 2010 until date. Where he worked as head of the administrative department of the municipality, focal point for the Med Cities and CMI networks, project leader for the Saida strategy, Saida tourism strategy, and others. Mr. Hijazi, I didn't state everything you sent me in your CV. It's a wealth of information, and I'm sorry I didn't capture them all in this small paragraph, but I really acknowledge everything you've worked for Saida. Based on this, can you tell us more about how can municipalities coordinate based on your role as a focal point for MedCity, CMI, etc.? How can municipalities coordinate with national and international actors? And how can you be prepared to unlock funding opportunities that are in line with your strategies?
Okay. Thank you. First of all, I would like to thank NCC and UN-Habitat for hosting us today and talking about our problems, the municipalities, and because we're all on the same boat, as we mentioned, hoping that it will sink soon. So thank you. I have an intervention like 10 minutes or so, so bear with me. In recent years, Lebanese cities and villages have been subjected to a set of crises and disasters, which have had a very large negative impact on the local communities, affecting all related humanitarian and socio-economic aspects. As a result of the successive events and crises, the role of municipalities has become essential in responding and coordinating with all local components to address multi-sectorial crises, environmental, health, economy. The list is very long, especially as it is the local authority that is closest to the citizens and most familiar with the local reality and needs. The environmental sector was one of the most affected, directly or indirectly, by most of the crises that toppled local and national institutions in terms of the ability to respond or in terms of availability of financial, human, or logistical resources. The municipality has multidisciplinary and multi-stakeholders platforms that bring together representatives from various sectors, including government agencies, community organizations, businesses, and academia, that serves as a platform for collaboration, dialogue, and decision-making on multiple issues, from which multi-sectorial related issues could be a potential subject. It can help coordinate efforts, develop green strategies, policies, and implement initiatives that promote sustainable and resilient environmental systems. This can facilitate data sharing, research, and knowledge to exchange to inform evidence-based decision-making. Today, now that we have prioritized the local needs with the local community and working on the needed instruments to be ready, we are currently analyzing the enablers for successful and sustainable roadmap as an overarching local framework for the environmental sector. Enablers include governance and policy, financial sustainability, private sector participation, awareness and public participation, international partnership, and data availability and management. This comes as a preparatory step for the action detailing process by which we will design and build solid actions and initiatives with a diverse set of partners for collaboration and implementation of initiatives at several levels: policy, plan, program, and project. Saida has a good experience in implementing projects related to climate change and climate adaptation, sustainable environmental development, and green infrastructure. Over the years, we have actively engaged in a range of initiatives that align with these themes, which has positioned Saida as a leading city in seeking environmental sustainability. One significant achievement is our involvement in the current NBS project at Awali River, adaptation to climate change through nature-based solutions for wastewater treatment and reuse in the Saida region. This project aims at reusing the water that is released in natural waterways as a demonstration for a decentralized water treatment system to provide a treated non-conventional water resource for irrigation and safe release into the sea. This project is funded by the Spanish Cooperation, and it's in cooperation with Harir Foundation. Moreover, we have taken part in the Nature Mid project. There's a project funded by Barcelona City Council, which aims at contributing to increase urban resilience to climate change by promoting the naturalization of urban spaces in the city. The project included studies, awareness, and technical sessions, and awareness-raising activity in order to explain to citizens the benefits of bringing nature into cities and increasing the sense of ownership and pride for the current and future natural spaces and elements in the city. We collected several data using ArcGIS for the government lots, for the parks, for the green areas, for the cemeteries, even for the green open spaces that we didn't have before. Continuing on this path, we also participated in the HERA project. This project aimed at reducing and mitigating heat island effect reduction and introducing green areas and productive corners in the city urban fabric. We implemented a pilot project that aimed at transforming the streets landscape using native plants and vegetation. We planted in 7 streets more than 77 citrus trees in addition to bougainville and other plants. By such, we created more sustainable and resilient urban environment. Awareness raising sessions also were conducted with participatory approach sessions. Moreover, we have taken a part in the roadmap of Saida towards an environmentally sustainable city. This project was launched throughout the Environmental Forum for Saida in December 2022 through the partnership between the United Nations Environmental Programme, UNEP, West Asia Office, Hariri Foundation, the Ministry of Environment, and the Municipality of Saida. This is a strategic project aimed at instigating a green transition in the city, adaptive to climate change through adhering to global frameworks and scientific indicators of climate action. The project adopts a consultative approach featuring the engagement of institutions, experts, and local communities in diagnosing the environmental state of the city, developing a sustainable strategic framework and operational roadmap with the necessary policies, plans, and programs, strengthening international cooperation as well as securing green financing for roadmap activities across Saida. This process, guided by international and regional experts from UNEP, has realized the local priorities in terms of challenges needed and opportunities, and accordingly rendered a strategic framework for the roadmap, which was endorsed in our latest meeting in October. The strategic framework of Saida's roadmap is founded on three strategic objectives related to environment, economic, and social sustainability. The framework is also founded on 6 pillars, focused on environmental aspects of sustainability, such as conservation and mitigation, and on the social aspects, such as education and empowerment, through building the capacities of citizens and institutions to partake the green transition as active agents and partners. Under the UNEP program, we have identified 7 key overarching environmental categories: built environment, energy, atmosphere, waste, water, biodiversity, and land. These categories serve as the foundation for understanding and addressing environmental challenges at a global scale. In addition, Saida Urban Sustainable Development Project or Strategy is another major initiative we were proud to have been part of. This was done in collaboration with Barcelona and Mid-Cities. That was done back in 2015. This significantly contributed to our overall strategy for sustainable urban development. These experiences underline our commitment to sustainable urban development, climate change adaptation, and green infrastructure. The piloting of an urban observatory in parallel with roadmap consultations aims to evaluate the current state of affairs at national and local levels across 7 sectors based on global environment outlook indicators. The observatory objectives include reinforcing the municipality of Saida authority, promoting data-driven decisions aligned with the global standards, centralizing and sharing sector-specific data for stakeholders, enhancing public understanding of urban development complexities, fostering transparency, collaborative planning, and knowledge exchange, identifying priority areas for intervention to guide funding and participatory process, and preventing redundancy or misguided development decisions in city sectors. In terms of lessons learned from the different implemented projects and considering the city's priorities in increasing its resilience to climate change, it is important to focus on the following 3 points. Saida's priorities for increasing resilience to climate change, Saida capacities, limitations, and challenges faced by local authorities, and how different agencies, national and international, can help reinforce capacities. Saida has 4 priorities for increasing resilience to climate change. First, identifying vulnerable areas in the city that are most at risk from climate change, such as flooding, extreme heat, or sea level rise. Implementing nature-based solutions like green infrastructure, urban forests, and green roofs to mitigate these risks and enhance the city's adaptive capacity. Engaging with local communities to raise awareness about climate change and the importance for nature-based interventions in building resilience. Fourth is collaborating with relevant stakeholders, including government agencies, NGOs, and research institutions to develop and implement sustainable strategies for climate resilience. When it comes to Saida's capacities, limitations, and challenges faced by local authorities, of course, we need to invest further in existing expertise in environmental management, community engagement, and project implementation. We have limited financial resources, lack of technical expertise in climate change adaptation, and institutional barriers for effective collaboration at the municipality level. We have to balance short-term development priorities with long-term climate resilience goals, ensuring inclusivity and participation of all stakeholders and overcoming bureaucratic hurdles in decision-making process. When it comes to how different agencies could help reinforce municipalities' capacities, we need different agencies to be to sustainable urban development that can facilitate knowledge exchange, capacity building, and peer-to-peer learning among cities. Establishing a working group focused on climate resilience and nature-based solutions could provide a platform for sharing best practices, lessons learned, and innovative approaches to climate adaptation. By supporting the municipalities in accessing green funding opportunities, technical assistance, and expertise from other cities to address specific challenges and implement tailored solutions. Access to technology, tools, and reliable data and information is crucial for evidence-based decision-making, particularly in the context of socioeconomic indicators. With these resources in place, the municipality can make informed choices and prioritize actions that have positive impacts on the environment and community well-being. And finally, policy and legal support are essential for navigating regulatory frameworks, developing appropriate policies and regulations, and ensuring compliance with relevant laws and guidelines. Having a strong policy foundations allows Saida to effectively address climate change challenges, promote green initiatives, and create a more sustainable urban environment. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mustafa. Left me with no options. I don't have any time to ask. Test. Okay. And now we move to our last but not least panelist, Mr. Anthony Jabbour. Again, I try to summarize your biography as much as possible.
Don't worry.
Thank you for giving me all those information. Don't think it's working.
Don't worry.
Test. Test. I guess it's working on this way. Okay, so you need to look at my face probably. And worked in the Middle East and Asia banking sectors with large portfolios and innovative banking ideas. Currently, you're the managing director of Cedar Oxygen, and you focus on developing strategic relationships with local and international partners to have meaningful impacts on local economies and to aim to promote the Made in Lebanon brand by opening export markets for Lebanese manufactured products and to bring the best global industry to the Lebanese market. Mr. Jabbour, can you please tell us more about the Green Investment Facility for Lebanon and how you think that municipalities can benefit from this environmental financing? What are the reforms needed and partnership that needs to be established? The floor is yours.
Thank you. Look, I'm not going to repeat some of the things that I've said. I think they've been covered by the panelists. I'll just start with where we started and what I'm doing now and align this with where we're going with the Lebanon Green Investment Facility. As a response to the problem in 2020 in the country, we set up a fund called Cedar Oxygen. Cedar Oxygen, we lend across 3 verticals. The first one is supply chain financing, meaning we finance raw materials in Mounajed Elie. Second is capex, basically the machines for manufacturing, and the third is renewable energy. And we evolved. We're focused purely on industrialists. The fund itself is registered in Luxembourg. Everything we signed is under English law, and our accounts are in Switzerland. It's a $100 million fund, and the reason why we set it up that way is simply because we wanted to decouple from the operation and legal risk in Lebanon. I'm going to say one thing in respect to this, and you'll understand where I'm going. So today, if you go to a Lebanese bank and they lend you $1 million fresh dollars, and by the way, Lebanese banks have exposure between $200 to $300 million from their foreign entities in Lebanon. If you go to a Lebanese bank today and they lend you $1 million fresh, by law, you can settle it in dollars by law today. So that's part of the reforms that's needed. Notwithstanding this, we set up this fund in this way so we can basically lend across these verticals in a way that attracts investors. So when we set up LGIF, so we have a 3 to 4 year precedent now, okay? So we've been lending, we've lent from those different loans. We've basically deployed $225 million in a revolving capacity, and that includes capex for the machines and renewable energy up to 3 and 4 years, which are maturing in the next 1 to 2 years, okay? So when we came to set up the Lebanon Green Investment Facility, we did it in exactly the same way. We set it under Luxembourg law, which is basically, it's set up under a foreign European jurisdiction, which is one of the most conducive jurisdictions for investors. And everything you sign is under English law, okay? Now, under Cedar Oxygen, we've lent 27 renewable energy loans, ranging from $100,000 to $2.5 million. 80% of those loans have been repaid from the savings on energy bills. So for example, I'll give you an example, by the way, and I have to add a caveat here. 80% of these loans, in 80% of the cases, it's cheaper for an industrialist to borrow the money, repay the principal and interest, the entire loan in a period of 2 years to generate the same amount of energy than it is for them to pay the diesel bills over those 2 years. That's in 80% of the case of the loans. Now, the advantage, because we're going to come to the municipalities, the advantage with the industrialists is that they have a high usage. So for example, if he takes 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 megawatts, he's going to use them almost every single day, okay? So to make this economical, if you're going to renewable energy, you need to be able to use what you're generating, what the sun's generating for you, so it actually makes economic sense from a return on investment perspective, because that's when you need to tap private investment. This becomes the premise, okay? So after we did this, we set up the Lebanon Green Investment Facility. So like I said, same legal framework. The only difference is that it's much broader, in tandem with the United Nations Development Program and with the Ministry of Environment as well, in association with them. This fund will allow us to lend to the entire private sector, okay? And under certain structures as well, we can accommodate the public sector as well. Now, this will include sustainable energy. So energy efficiency today is a massive topic. So in urban areas, energy efficiency today is something that resonates with all the stakeholders in this business, because today our problem in Beirut is land availability, right? So if I go in Beirut and I have these residential areas, what I need to do is basically get energy efficiency companies that work in this space, and they can potentially reduce these bills by 30, 40, and up to 50%. You will not believe what some Lebanese, very quiet Lebanese, quiet achievers abroad have achieved in this space. And they've just told me, Anthony, we just want to do it in Lebanon. And guess what this is all about? And this is, we're going to switch to the municipalities here. It's all about creating the conducive framework for these investors to come and put their money. The first thing they will say to you, the first thing, a person, unless he's going to give his money away and say, I'm going to give this money, I don't want it back, this is a different story. And I can give you examples. I'll give you one of each so we put things into perspective. But when you go to an investor, I was in London last week for LGIF. I met private investors. I met global institutions with 2 trillion plus in assets. We met the government and we met DFIs. We met the government of England and we met DFIs. I wanted to build a scope together with the UNDP and others. We want to understand, we know what we need. We need to understand what they want, where there's common ground, what we can do today to use this as a base from which to propel and scale. So today, I don't need $1 billion, but let me just tell you one thing in the context of where we are today as an economy. And this resonates with where we're going with LGIF, okay, and that Cedar Oxygen. Today, before we had $180 billion in deposits for a GDP of 55 billion. Today, the GDP is 25 billion, plus or minus. And in any economy, you should have at least 40 to 50% available in credit financing. So for example, let me give you an example. If today, I mean, look at the developed world and look at the developing world, okay? So in the case of Lebanon today, we should have at least 7 to 8, at the very minimum, $1 billion in available financing in credit. The problem is we don't even have 500 million, which is less than 2%. I was talking about 30, 40, and 50%. This is a massive constraint. So what you need to do is build confidence. When you have investor confidence and they come in, let's say we start with 100 million, okay, $100 million. You use that as a platform from which to build. And then in parallel, what you need to do is you need to build a framework where the investor says, okay, my money is protected. Okay, so what do? That's how we started with Cedar Oxygen, and that's what we're doing with LGIF. And we're broadening the scope. So if I come to municipalities, where do you start? I've had a number of chats. Some things are being done and have been done, but they have been exceptional and they have been ad hoc. Okay, so everybody's spoken about the reforms, everybody's spoken about, but let me just tell you one thing before I go into a deep dive. I was born and raised in Australia for 20 years almost before I came here, okay? And let me tell you, in Australia, the difference between Australia and this part of the world generally, and the developing country framework generally, is that in Australia, institutions are bigger than the individuals, whereas here, the individuals are bigger than the institutions. And I think that speaks volumes, and you can see where we are, where we should have been, okay? And I think one more example, because I think I should build on this as well, is that the guy who created Singapore sent a delegation to the United Nations in the late 60s. They used to basically go out and fish, right? He said to them, he went to the head of the United Nations, Allo, I want you to send me to a country to replicate my country's model on and build it. He goes, come, he sent them to Lebanon for about 3 to 4 days. Today, Singapore, this was in the late 60s, early 70s, okay? Today, Singapore, okay, has 2 sovereign wealth funds. Look them up, Temasek Holding and another one. They have forex reserves, 3 of them. No oil, no gas. We're bigger than them by a lot. I think they're less than 1,000 square kilometers, if that maybe plus or minus. And they have between them almost $1 trillion in reserves and forex and the sovereign wealth funds. I needed to make that point so you can understand when people talk about institutionalizing things, it's very, very important. But again, with us, it's a mindset. So when you have this, you develop a mindset. Mindset comes from institutions. Mindset comes from these developed countries when you go get an education, and you build this. When it comes to where we are today, I'll give you an example. I'm from a village in the north of Lebanon. We're about 1,400 meters above sea level. Okay, it's between Ihdin and Sharri. It's very high up there. And there's a village very close to me. We have a very large community in Australia. In my village, there are 700 people. There are 27,000 in Australia, just my village alone. So there's one village not far from us. One guy from that village is Australian. He said, look, I want to adopt, or I want to cover all the solar energy costs for my village. I'm going to give this money, whatever it's going to cost. Okay, he gave the money. They started to save energy. This village is at 1,250 meters above sea level, right? During the winter, about 50% of that village and more, 90% of that village used to go down and spend the winter in Biswehel, down in the next to the cities. Today, it's about 50 to 60%. So initiatives like this help keep people in the village, and that can come through private money, right? The second thing is, I'll give you another example, solar refrigeration. I think everybody looks, if you know the apples, I don't know, you know we sell apples, right, in Lebanon? The cost of refrigeration of apples has been prohibitive. A lot of people I know have dumped the apples. They basically told the guy that owns the refrigerator, take them, don't give them back to us, because it's a net loss for them. And the problem has been with the cost of refrigeration. So if money can be galvanized as a private investment, I'll get to the reason why I'm saying this is because we're talking about municipalities, but initiatives like these, by just reducing the cost on a crate of $3 to $4 in refrigeration through this solar refrigeration, you're keeping the money in the farmers' pockets. And by keeping them in their pockets, you're lifting people out of poverty. This is hands-on and it's real. Okay, this is happening in Lebanon today. This is something that can be scalable, these kind of private initiatives. And what you're doing, because when we're talking about municipalities, we're talking about how we're going to create an impact on the local populace, correct? The municipalities themselves, per se, they're not, sorry guys, sorry Mustafa, sorry Assaad, but essentially I think they're not bankable today with the budgets that they have. So, okay, so this is basically obvious. How much time do I have? Bas Elie, I'm done. 0?
Anthony, you gave a lot of topics that, of course, triggered most of the audience, and they need to probably probe and ask more questions on it. So this is why I asked you to stop. Apologies for this. If you do have like a closing idea, sentence, please go ahead. Okay. Okay, thank you. I guess a wealth of information. I was able to write like around 6 pages for the ideas that were given today. I'm not going to ask any question now. I have a lot, but I will leave the floor for the audience. So as mentioned at the beginning, if you do have questions, please raise your hands. Our colleagues will pass the microphone so that
Mohammed Fhaili, I hold a research position with the Olayan School of Business here at the AUB. To Mr. Kalab, I want to say I need a roundtable on climate risk. I think it's a very critical issue. To Mr. Mayor, I'm a graduate of Louisiana State University. Lafayette and Arneville were my favorite cities in Louisiana. I want to capitalize on something Mr. Jabbour said, and Ms. Menhem, citizenship and how with being environmentally responsible, you can save a lot of money. And I have a little bit of a story. On my 40th birthday, my family gave me a very interesting gift, 2 years in the hospital to do comprehensive test. My doctor was in his 70s. At the end of the 2 days, he said, don't worry about how to finance your retirement. Think of one thing, your health is your wealth, invest in it. And I really started on a long journey like this, and I was able to finance my retirement. Today, I'm 65 years old. What have I done since my 40th age? I stopped using canned food. I stopped using prepackaged food. And I really went back to my village. I come from the north, Kura. It's a little town on the coastal side. Its name is Kalamun. I started looking for every few square centimeter. I planted summa. I planted the fig tree, loz, ukharnub. And I have planted about no less than 200 trees over that time. And from saving, stopping canned food, and by the way, if you want to be healthy, you eat less, so you have more money. And you start watching and you start exercising, you are engaged with nature more. And I really do believe, strongly believe, if you worry and care about the environment, start with the man in the mirror.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm Dr. Fatima Abu Salim from the Computer Science Department in AUB, and I've done some work on AI modeling of air pollution epidemiology. I think I have a comment or a question to say. I think what was missing probably in today's discussion is the role that this can be galvanized at a citizen level. So, for example, so what does it take to, what does it take us to move this discussion away from NGOs and sort of ministries and research centers? And you know, I think there were two things missing with regards to allowing citizens to understand the health inequalities that exist, or environmental inequalities that exist across Lebanon, and also to understand the level of the burden of disease. After all, people need to realize how dangerous is it going to be for us to keep ignoring whatever pollution, be it sound, air pollution, soil and water, etc. So is there any action going on over there kind of to link all that you've said to the burden of disease and to the actual inequalities that exist all over Lebanon? So we have nice stories from Saida and Zgheib, but probably much more horrible stories coming from Beirut. And I think there's a lot of expertise on campus that can probably, maybe your center can help get all these interdisciplinary teams, you know, from modeling and IoT, and maybe develop a culture of citizen science who would actually be involved in collecting the data at very little cost. So I think it's going to be very important to make this more of a mobilization campaign and not just within, you know, our own echo chambers.
Noted that this. Thank you for both comments, for both ideas that you have highlighted. I don't know if probably Mr. Mustafa, you want to talk a little bit about the citizens' engagement. You mentioned the observatory that was established inside or is being established. What was the level of engagement with your citizens there? And then probably Mayor Assaad, you can talk more about on this level. You had another question also. So please, Mr. Mustafa.
Yes, actually the municipality, as I mentioned earlier, we have these platforms where we have everybody on board, from government, from citizens, from different agencies, discussing the priorities of the city, the visions of the city, and even the action plan. And in line with this, of course, I mean, we do lots of awareness sessions and participatory approach with the citizens and maintaining the environment as much as possible as we can, like maybe cleaning the shore, working on the blue economy, the circular economy. And of course, I mean, the observatory is still not in place yet. It's the observatory is being now prepared with the UNDP, and hopefully within a year or so, it's going to be on board. I mean, and on board, of course, we're going to have academia, we're going to have CNRS also on board with us, and so many citizens to engage us.
of course, in collecting the data, on the monitoring, and maybe releasing regular informations on certain platforms to inform people of this data that can help us also in taking decisions. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I was elected, like I said, in 1998. It was the first election after the war. And there was a committee at the municipality that was taking care of municipal affairs. And people did not trust that committee. It was not working for the benefit of the people. And we were elected. When we started working, and I came with the mentality that people should share anything that we want to do, should put their ideas, tell them what we are going to do, get their approval. But every time I talk to the people, no answer whatsoever, you know. And they all the time the answer was, government, you know what to do. This, yeah. And so anyhow, well, I presented the project for the people of Zahle in about extending the touristic area. That was in 2004. And I did what you call computer animation, showing the place how it's going to be so that everybody could understand, because not everybody understands maps and drawings and these things like that. It was for about 13 minutes. After that, I talked to the people in that area. I invited the people of that area where I'm going, where I'm doing the touristic extension. And I asked them, anybody has a question? Nobody. Then again, after one week, I just opened. I did a presentation open for everybody living in Zahle. And after I finished, I told them, anybody has a question? One person raised his hand and said, the trees are small. I told them, well, we'll irrigate them. They will get big with time. That's all the comment. And even when I used to call people to tell them what we are doing and what the municipality is doing, and if somebody is sitting there and he has a problem with a street light in front of his house is off, so he just sits and waits until I start talking about electricity and lights. He raises his hand and tells them, I have the street light in front of my house is burned. I told him, okay, we'll take note. And then I want to keep on going. Then he raises his hand again and he asks a question about something I have talked about before, but he did not listen because all his head was in that street lamp in front of his house. It's very important. Anyhow, I'm saying this out of experience, but it's very important to share with the people everything we are doing, because this is the only way they will develop. They will know what they want. They will know more and more why they want to be a municipal member. Every time we have a municipal election and we have municipal members, they think that municipal council has the same authority like the mayor or like the president of the municipal council. They have to understand there is a big difference. The council is a council and the mayor is a mayor, and the mayor is the only one who is supposed to run the municipality. I'm talking about big municipalities, not small municipalities where there's no employee over there. So people need a lot of awareness, education, awareness, knowing exactly everything in life needs to be, they should be aware of before going into. I had a friend of mine that graduated from me when I was studying in America. He used to have the best camera. It was Nikon in 1970, very expensive. He used to have the best music set, Bose. At that time, nobody heard of Bose in America. And all the time he was, straightforward. We go out. He didn't even touch his one beer, I told him, why? You are always straightforward. You are always correct with your dealing. He told me, because I want to be into politics. I don't want anybody to take a picture of me doing something wrong. And he knows all the law, everything that you talk to him about it concerning municipalities, concerning parliament, concerning deputies, he knows about. And we want people like this in Lebanon, and we hope we can get them. We can get them.
Thank you, Mayor and Mustafa. I guess we do have 2 interventions, but we have a pending
I have
question
one more
from the
question,
audience.
for Hala. I had a monitor for air pollution in Zahle, and we used to get the information on Sensu Air. It has been out of order for 3 years now. And I think in Saida is out of order also. They had one.
Let's pose
You
this
don't have
question.
one? But there are about 13 ones. Is it possible that...
Mayor, we'll give this, we'll give you the chance to speak when you have your intervention, okay, about this. But first, I have a question from the audience, and please, as much as possible, try to mainstream the question to what have been discussed in terms of lessons learned from municipalities, reforms that can be applied on a national and local level, and bankable projects through funding opportunities. So please, Mr. Hassan.
Okay, Awashi, thank you for organizing this. My name is Hassan Dhaini. I'm a professor at the AUB in Department of Environmental Health, and I also serve as the senior advisor to the Minister of Environment, and I also serve as the Green Transition Advisor for the World Bank. أول شيء خليني أقول I'm going to try to be brief. أول شيء at the ministry, I think despite all the attrition and deterioration in the public sector and the scarcity of resources, we actually were able to do a lot of efforts at the level of the environmental protection and fighting climate change. We have many successful programs with Mayor Assaad Zgheib in Zahle. We recently launched the Lebanese Green Investment Fund with Anthony in Cedar Oxygen. And we also were able to release fresh dollars for the IBC solid waste sorting plant in Saida. And we're promised that we're going to produce RDF also. خليني also at the level of the ministry was able to access climate financing in several sectors, مثل الforest management for the forest management strategy والforest fires. We were also able to secure a grant to fight UPOPs from open burning in 2 sites in Lebanon, in إقليم التفاح in the south and in Akkar, and many others examples. And I want to say that we will not be able to implement all these projects without the partnership between the central government and the municipalities. So our sheet, the central government أكيد has a role to empower the municipalities, and the municipalities are definitely suffering. But let's talk also about the bright side. For instance, one example that the Ministry of Environment is doing is to push for the cost recovery in the solid waste sector. And so the ministry sent a law draft to the parliament in order to amend Law 80 for solid waste, in order to empower the municipalities to collect a fee from residences and from commercial businesses in order to gather and to treat solid waste. Unfortunately, this is still facing political resistance. But I want to also say that the municipalities have a role also. I think the municipalities, يعني from our experience, هلا مش كلهم نشيطين مثل أسعد زغيب خليني أقول. But I think many municipalities shy away from their leading roles as local authorities and also as enablers of local economy. According to the latest CCDR report, the Country Climate and Development Report that was launched by the World Bank, the 3 most vulnerable sectors will be the agricultural sector, the water sector, and the touristic sector. So I think at the level of climate adaptation, municipalities have a role to address these sectors, in building their own local management plans, and also to conduct their own vulnerability assessments. Hatta even for small municipalities, we can still, and we are working through the unions of municipalities, to achieve the economies of scale اللي حكيت عنها Ms. Diana Menhem. And also, we need to hear from municipalities how can they, what ideas do they have in order to identify clear mechanisms to access climate financing. لأنه so far this is not happening. هخلص. بس بدي أقول last thought also for discussion at the organizational level. The municipal system has been under debate for a long time around decentralization, economic development, political participation. بس بدي أقول إنه given the level of engagement that is needed between the Ministry of Environment and between municipalities, should we consider a radical organizational reform مثل غير دول